So first up is what? Repurposing the exercise room.
Yep.
But before we do that, I see a new face here.
Oh, yeah.
Can we do an introduction?
Hello. Hi, I'm Corey. I'm the recreation intern. So nice to meet you all.
Nice
Hey,
meeting you.
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
How do you pronounce your name? Corey Dahl?
Corey Dahl. Yeah, it's my first and last name, but it merged it.
Oh, Corey. Okay.
Yeah, it's not
okay.
one.
I got you. Okay. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, now may I go, Bruce?
You're on.
Thank you. Repurposing the exercise room.
Okay. Well, I can jump in on that, and I'll introduce it. But that's actually the reason why Corey is with us today, because this is her culminating project for her internship. So with the gym, as you know, a month ago or so, we had to decide if we were going to renew our lease on the gym equipment. It was quite expensive to try and get the equipment that we were looking at, which was just a couple, can't think of the term, the things you walk on.
Treadmill.
There you go. That's it. A couple treadmills and a couple
I could
bikes.
play this game.
It's going to be like $15,000. It was ridiculous. Our gym membership, which costs about $40 for most of the people who use it, we had 5 of them last year. We've never had a ton. So, you know, at $200 a year in revenue, that just wasn't going to make sense. So we're looking at, okay, what else can we do with this space that hopefully will get more buy-in from our residents, get more use, and potentially bring in some revenue in terms of rent and also being able to use for classes. So we're looking at getting creative and coming up with a bunch of options. And Corey's going to go through them with you. The purpose tonight is we want to make sure you've seen them, and then we'd like to get your votes on your top 3. And she's compiling that with other folks' votes on top 3, and she's going to build out 3 options for us, which we can take to the residents and have them vote on what they'd like to see down there. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, Corey. Well, I'll turn it over to you.
Who's controlling who's sharing their screen?
I was trying to, but I don't see the agenda on there.
I see the agenda.
Someone's sharing. I think Cheryl maybe.
If you let go of the screen, then I'll share mine to scroll it down.
Okay, that sounds
If you
good
like.
in theory.
I just think that that's a good idea for the presentation that Corey's going to give. You need to see the potential uses, or does everybody have their? I don't know. Whatever you.
We got it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it, but.
Whatever works. If you have it, I'm going to go through all of them. So if you want to look at them, I'm also going to go through each one of them. So
okay,
it works.
You're on.
So all these different options I'm about to go through, we don't have any funding. We know there's no funding at the moment, but for the top 3, as we build them out, we're looking for potential sponsorships, funding options, grants, and then we're also looking at different revenue options by looking in the local market, seeing what's comparable, what we can make. As we build these out, we explore each one to see what options we can go down for funding and revenue. So the first one we have is a senior friendship cafe. This would be an area where neighbors, just everyone in the community could go enjoy some coffee. So this would be a really friendly, nice environment with a kitchenette, very light opening, could be a meeting space, something like that available for the community there. And then we have a few pictures to show what we could look forward to as we build out this option too. The next option we have is an arts and crafts studio. So this would be available for programming. We could do this for all ages. There would be desks, tables, we would need water, so a sink, but we'd be able to have programming there. We could rent it out, and then we would have the instructors and renters be responsible for cleaning this area out because crafting can get a little messy. And then as we build out that option, we look at what flooring would fit best for an arts and crafts studio. Our next option is a historical museum. So it has Lathrup Village has an interesting history, and with our history group, they'd be able to work with us here. We'd be able to show the history of Lathrup Village. And this would include vinyl hardwood floors, better lighting, display areas, interactive. And this, with the Historical Society, they could work with us to make this happen. Next, we have the dance and yoga studio. So this would make 2 studios, so we could dedicate one for actual dance, jazz, hip hop. Another one could be more like ballet, yoga, tai chi, martial arts. So we'd have a different flooring dedicated to just that space. This again would be available for rent and city use, as the other one already is. Another option we have is a nonprofit co-op office rental space. So this one is dedicated for the community they can have a space to work. If they own their own business through their home, they can now have a dedicated office space. They can use this. We can have printers and copiers there. And this will really promote business through the community as well. Another option we have is the classroom. So this would allow for many different things. We could have meeting spaces here. We could have programming, presentations. The community could rent this out. There could be recreational classes in there. It's a very versatile option. Then we have a babies and toddler playroom. Lathrup Village has a growing population with a lot of residents that have young toddlers and babies. This area would allow them to have somewhere to go, bring their children. This would have like mats, little tumbling areas, or reading, just play areas. This could be play groups, programming, rentals, making birthday party rentals availabilities too. Another option we have is storage space. So this is where we can have city documents and assets that we have all over the building there. We can have a central location to store things. This also would free up closet space. So this would be something with concrete flooring, pretty simple construction done to the room, just so that we can have a nice lockable central location for storage for City Hall. Another area we were thinking idea was teen zone and game room. So as the growing teen population as well, this would be that space for hangouts. It would be a safe space where there could be TV, gaming options, music. There would be a code of conduct and commitment to community service hours for the city to keep it a nice membership clean area. And then this would also potentially could be a rental space as well with a kitchenette, pool table. Someone may want to have a birthday party or similar there. Another option we have is the multi-purpose room. So this would have movable furniture that would allow for many different settings. You could have meetings, programming, rentals. This could combine the senior coffee idea that was the first one I mentioned. This would need a kitchenette, presentation capabilities, and this one could really go to many different aspects to benefit all of the city as well. And then we're also open to other ideas if any of you have things you want to suggest. Otherwise, if you have any questions, I can answer those about those options and also take your vote.
So I didn't realize you wanted us to vote now.
If you're not prepared to vote, you can also
Yeah, you can email
me. Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
I'll be emailing.
because we would really like a top 3 from everyone. So you can
Okay.
email them to Corey. Corey, your email right now is recreationintern@lathrupvillage.org.
I already have my top 3, so whenever you want.
All right.
Yeah, I got a couple suggestions too.
Yep.
So kind of building on your historical museum, I mean, one thing that we might consider doing is seeing if the Historical Society wants to take up that space. I mean, they're renting in the
Yes.
building just south of you, and their current office, I'm going to guess, having been there a couple times, is probably a little smaller than the space that you have available. So, I mean, that would serve multiple purposes. One, it would bring it to City Hall, which is where it logically belongs. They could probably do a little bit of, museum exhibit space in that area, and it would bring in some substantial revenue because instead of them paying, I don't know, what's the new building owner's name? JCL, MCL?
MCL, I think.
AMC.
AMC.
Yeah. So instead of paying them, they could be paying us, and as we all know, we need as much revenue as we can get, and that would be a good steady revenue source. So that was one thought. Another thought too, which kind of builds on your art and crafting studio, was we have a lot of artists in Lathrup. So one thing that might be kind of interesting is maybe setting up some type of co-op where all those artists could sell their stuff. So, I've seen other cities and other people do this commercially where, you have 20 artists and each artist gets, 100 square feet and, people can come and go. It's almost like a business kind of / gallery, whereas they can all, pay a fee maybe. I mean, I'm just thinking, myself included with my photography, that would be something I would certainly be interested in doing, and I know we've got a lot of artists in Lathrup. So, maybe you pay a monthly fee, you're able to have 100 square feet, and, we market it as a gallery, and people can come and go and view and buy. So there's a couple ideas that your ideas kind of sparked as you were going through it.
So you're saying combo Historical Society / Art Museum for locals?
Well, what I was saying is maybe the Historical Society would be interested in moving there, and then they could do all their Historical Society work there, and maybe if they were interested, which I'm sure they probably would if they had more space than what they have now, is putting up some exhibits.
Right. Right. That was definitely the motivation behind that option, knowing that there is a substantial portion of our residents who are interested in the history of the city and who are involved in the Historical Society. And looking, they've asked for a museum space, so providing that potential option. It would be tight, though, in terms of combining storage and exhibit space. That's always going to be a challenge. It's a challenge in a tiny town to find space.
Right.
Yeah. And has anybody mentioned this to Annette or no? Not yet.
No, not at all. No.
Hey, I agree with Bruce's observation there.
I'll send your agreements to Corey and
okay.
to CC Chris on it.
Okay, can we get the email again?
Recreation intern.
You can put in rec intern, it comes up. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Chris.
Recreation intern at lathrup.org.
Okay.
Does the Historical Society have any like museum type space now?
No.
Do they have anything?
No, just a room.
It's a room with a lot of file cabinets and a lot of interesting stuff.
Yep. I have yet to find the blueprints to my house. That's how difficult it is.
They might be in Corey's office. We have quite a bit of historical stuff still within the building.
Really? Interesting. All right, I might have to come in there and see. Jeez. All
Okay.
right.
So send in your vote. Preferably have it all in by what day?
Let's do Wednesday, July 29th.
As in day after tomorrow.
There you go.
Faster than the council likes to move.
Welcome, Corey. Wait till you wait for that.
Oh, man. See, that's why we like young, energetic people. Keep these old people in line and keep them moving the right direction. They're bumping into walls.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Mine has already been sent. Thank you.
Perfect.
So what I would do, Cheryl or Chris or whoever wants to do this, I would send that out ASAP to all of council with a due date in the subject line, and let's go from there.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Next up.
Mayor Garrett, before you proceed, I just want to mention that the bond attorneys are on the Zoom call, if you want to go to that one first, perhaps.
Sure, let's do that. So we're going to be skipping down to page.
That would be number C.
That will be page
C.
15.
Yep.
On the study session agenda?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Page.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, am I controlling the
Let's see.
chair, or are you?
I can. Let me make sure that I have all the other stuff off of my. That is not it. Oh. That is the agenda for this evening. You're talking about the study session, which is right here. I didn't lose you all, did I?
No.
Okay. No, okay, good, because I thought my computer was shutting down, sorry. Let me see again. There it is. Somebody can go ahead, I mean, Bruce or Cheryl, you can go ahead and introduce it.
Which one, what did we, I'm sorry, what did we move on to? I was confused here.
We're moving to page 15 and we're skipping down to the road improvement bond millage.
Got it. Okay. So, yeah. So, well, you know, I covered this in detail at our study session 2 weeks ago, and you know, I'll do a brief presentation of it, you know, summary of it in the big meeting a little bit later. But I guess the only thing I have to say is, you know, nothing has changed in the last 2 weeks. So, you know, are there any questions that anyone has, or do we need to discuss any of the facets of it in any more detail? I'm perfectly willing to do that. Yeah, so I don't really have anything to present that's different from what was done 2 weeks ago.
Just one minor observation. Your recommendation had 2 signatures on the bottom. It should have been 3. Did Michael Griffin not get a chance to sign?
It has 4 signatures, and one was left open because he was not in support of it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll read this into the record during the meeting, but you know, he emailed us because he can't make it tonight, and he said, as I stated previously, I'm opposed to putting this on the November ballot. I feel 10 years is too long given the uncertainty of the economy and other infrastructure needs that may arise. In general, I think a 10-year millage for anything is too long. I would have rather seen this cut in half, same millage, but done over 5 years. Then seek renewal if the work and process is satisfactory. So, you know, that was his major reason, is he just feels that 10 years is too long. So, for the payback period, not the construction. The construction would only be 3 years.
Okay. Just another observation. So prior to the 2 weeks, I think you came to the council and you said you guys were having, you know, those discussions with the committee, and it sounded like, yeah, he didn't like the 10 years, but I thought that he agreed with everything else.
Well, I mean, he's just, and Salim and Cheryl, feel free to chime in, but, you know, in my discussions with him, he just feels that 10 years is too long to pay back for anything. He feels like he feels like things can change in the economy, and you know, it's just too long. I mean, I think the committee, and again, Salim and Cheryl chime in, but I think the committee felt, well, you know, the same thing could happen in 5 years.
Right.
And I think the biggest reason why the other members of the committee disagreed with him was because, you know, we're going through a pretty substantial effort here to, you know, try to make a dent in the roads. And if we cut it in half to 5 years, that means we get half as much done. So we would be doing all of this for 3 miles.
Right.
Or a little bit more than 3 miles. And I see Bobby's on the line as well. But you know, even if we did cut it to 5 years, in terms of the bond costs that we have, I don't know that that substantially changes the bond costs. I mean, it might lower it a little bit. So again, we're not amortizing, you know, the cost of the bond over a longer period either. So yeah, so that I think that was Michael's big contention. Salim, Cheryl, anything to add to that?
No, I think you're right. I mean, that's what Michael's opposition to it was, you know, and so that's his opinion. And I think the other four members of the committee were in favor of this proposal for other, you know, for the reasons of we're going to get more miles done, over 7 miles. It's going to be done in 3 years. It's a good amount of roads, and the average cost per homeowner is not, you know, it's very reasonable compared to what we had proposed the last time. So I think, to me, you know, I respect everyone's vote, but I focus more on the 4 out of 5 people that are in favor of this recommendation.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add too, Ian, is while he did disagree with, you know, with the recommendation, he was very, I don't know what's the word, productive, or, you know, he had a lot of really great suggestions, and he really did have a big influence on the way that the proposal shook out. So he really helped shape it, but his you know, major stumbling block was the 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you reduce it down to 5, I mean, you really didn't need a committee. If that was the focus, hey, I just want 5 years out of this, then we could have just brought it to council and say, okay, we're only doing 3 miles of road. That's it. You don't need a committee for that.
Yeah.
It defeats the purpose of a committee if you're going to narrow it to 5 years. Okay, I appreciate that.
Bobby, as long as Bobby's on the phone, I was going to ask him, Bobby, does the bond cost change substantially for for a change in length of the bond? So in other words, had we decided,
are you referring to the cost of?
Had we decided to do 3 million, say 3 million over 5 years, 6 million over 10, does the bond cost?
They're not going to get cut in half. Let's put it that way.
Right. That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah. So from a bond cost perspective, it's also more efficient to do a longer, more substantial project, amortize more over time. So.
Well, the length doesn't change the cost of the issuance.
Yeah.
The dollar amount of the bond issue changes the cost. Okay. But if you go from 6 million down to 3 million, your cost of issuance will not be cut in half.
Yeah. Okay.
Because your rating, instead of being 20,000, might be 15,000.
Yeah.
Your official statement isn't going to change at all. It doesn't matter the size of the bond issue. That's going to be 3,500 or 45.
Yeah, that's what I figured, but it's good to have that confirmation. Thanks, Bobby.
No problem.
Anybody else have any other questions on the proposal or the recommendation?
No, thank you.
No, that's good.
All right, so I'll try to be as brief as possible in the council session while getting out all the information that I think we need to get out. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
And this is, again, is just voting for it, and I'm not saying this for clarification. I'm saying this again because of just to reiterate, this is just for us to vote for it to go onto the ballot. It's up to the residents on whether or not they want to vote yay or nay to do it. Same
Correct.
thing as before, just reiterating, that's all.
The goal of the council meetings to get approval for the resolution to put it on the ballot.
Right. Okie dokie. Does anyone have any questions at all? Okay, well then, unfortunately my other computer crashed on me in the middle of it, so I don't have my agenda up anymore. So I think that
Am I sharing the screen at all?
Yes,
yeah, you are.
Okay.
But I know we have to jump back. If you could jump back to the beginning to show me where the agenda started at. Yep, thank you. So now we'll go back to the extension of sunset period for marijuana establishments. And I know that we did receive some more information more recently regarding the reason behind, you know, getting the answers because, oh, wait a minute, let me try this again. More information regarding what the committee came up to. I mean, came, you know, to conclusion for something that we asked for last time to get some more information for. So, did I say it right? No?
Yeah,
okay.
You did.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Is someone? Oh, okay. So I'm thinking somebody saying something. I'm sorry. So, for the sunset, well, I'm gonna back up a little bit. You know, the sunset, what was the recommendation to do a sunset for how long? Or that's where we're at. I'm trying to do two things. I'm trying to get my computer back together too. I'm not doing really well.
Well, while you're doing that, so, and then Celine, feel free to jump in. So we had a marijuana committee meeting last week, Thursday, I believe, Thursday.
Yeah,
and
yeah, it was like Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. Yep.
Yeah, so we took back the open points that a couple of council members had, and we did do the research leading up to that meeting, and obviously that's a part of the review coming up in the council meeting. But Scott Baker was on the line, and we started talking just a little bit about ordinance, and so it's going to take a minimum of 6 months. So I feel comfortable going out to the 6 months because I think it's a viable window of opportunity to complete that and then come back and then revisit it. Salim, your thoughts?
Yeah, as far as the sunset goes, that's fine. Yeah, so just to summarize, we had our meeting. We did, you know, after our last meeting here, we went back, did some additional research, addressed the questions that were raised, came back and discussed it at our meeting in the committee. The committee still voted 4-1 to allow, to put forth a recommendation that would recommend that the city allow marijuana related businesses in the city. And I sent that to Cheryl, who sent it around, and that's what's posted up here. So the recommendation is yes, 4-1, you know, for the city to allow marijuana related businesses. We have some recommendation on licenses. During that last meeting we had, we discussed with Scott that, yeah, we need to extend the sunset period. And I think that's what we got to do. And while as that period is extended, then the city council would be able to direct the creation of the, you know, necessary ordinances and regulations, et cetera, that we would need. So that's kind of where we're at.
So the suggestion would be for us to do only 6 months then, just to extend the sunset.
Yes.
Has that changed? I mean, I know there was some email conversation between Cheryl, Kelly, and Scott Baker and myself, and Scott was recommending in that message, and Jill as well, who put together a, you know, somewhat of a schedule of 12 months. So I just wanted to be sure what Scott's recommendation was, and I don't know if that had changed since you guys had your meeting. So I just wanted to hear Scott's opinion on that.
Yeah,
no, my recommendation is and continues to be a minimum of 12 months. I think this is something that as Jill's timeline pointed out, it's included in your agenda packet. It's going to take some time, and I discussed during the infrastructure, or I'm sorry, in the subcommittee, marijuana subcommittee meeting last Thursday, that there are going to be multiple bodies involved: planning commission, city council. It's going to consultants are going to need time to go out and do this. I know one of the concerns was the optics on this, that this is something we've already put it out for 18 months, but we can't lose sight of the fact that the state took 12 full months after the election before they even began accepting applications. So it wasn't until December of last year that they first issued a license. So this subcommittee didn't have a whole lot of time or a whole lot of data, because nothing was happening for the first 12 months of this ordinance time period. So it is that's something I think when people ask why are we putting it out again, it's just it's simply out of our hands at this point, or it was out of our hands for a long period of time. Now that we have the information, if council desires to move forward with this, we're going to want to make sure we do our due diligence. It's not something where I'm comfortable just copying and taking an ordinance from another community and plopping it in Lathrup Village, because Lathrup is very unique with proximity of our commercial corridor to our residential neighborhood. It's going to take time, and we're going to want to make sure we get the appropriate input from residents, from planning commission, to be able to craft ordinances that are appropriate for our community. So 12 months minimum is my recommendation.
And personally, I'm fine with that too, as long as we continue to make progress every month. I just don't want it to, want us to make progress on it. So when we get to the end of the sunset, if not before, we do have some type of decision made, and don't have to do another sunset.
Yeah, and it is important too. I mean, I think I did tell the subcommittee that what I was looking for from council this evening was some definitive direction. Either yes, we accept this and we agree with the recommendation from the subcommittee, or we accept their recommendation but we disagree with it and we don't feel that this is an avenue that we would like to pursue. So I would like some direction definitively from council tonight so that we can begin working on it. And then I also did want to point out that just because it's extended 12 months, if we wrap things up in 4 or 5 months, then there's nothing preventing the city from saying, all right, our ordinances are ready, let's repeal the opt-out ordinance and put in place our new ordinances and procedures.
Yeah, and that was kind of the gist behind my elephant in the room, comments at the last meeting, trying to get to that, decision, because it did seem, based on comments and conversations we've all had, that it does seem like there is support to at least drafting and working through the process of developing an ordinance, because I think there is enough support among the council to do that. So that's my thought.
And then if we, and I think you said before, just to make sure that if we move faster, that we don't have to wait a whole year, basically.
Correct.
Yeah, my biggest concern is, we obviously will miss the September sunset date, and we're pushing it out. And the fear is that we're going to default to the 12 months. And I figure the compromise between the 6 and the 12 is actually 9. So if we do come in early, 4 months later, or even 5 months later, heck, even 6 months later, we still have that window of opportunity to adjust right at the end. So I don't think we should say 12 months, because then the default, again, based on the sunset from last year, from the year and a half, we're missing that date. So I don't want people to just get comfortable with 12 months. So I'm recommending 9 months.
I sort of agree with you. And the whole thing is that the reason why we did a sunset is because we were putting the committees together and it was supposed to be done, expeditiously, on a regular, I guess, meeting regularly. So it's not where this time, at least I don't feel as though, even if we decided to do a year, personally, I know that I won't let it, the expectations would be every single month or every single meeting, we have an update regarding marijuana, regarding findings from the committee, so we can move it forward. So it won't be, it would be a push for it to continuously move. So not necessarily will we allow it this time to sit until the actual time of, the sunset is up.
Right, and I think there's ways, Jill put together a great, first draft schedule, and I think that's realistic, but I also think that there's ways, that we can speed that along. I'm in no rush to do this because, it needs to be done right, because we don't want to have legal challenges, because that's going to defeat the purpose. It'll cost us money, cost us time, reputation and so forth. So we want to get this right, the first time. But I think there are ways of speeding up that schedule. We don't necessarily have to wait. If we have a public hearing, we don't have to necessarily wait a month to do it. We can do it at our next study session and make it a special meeting, things like that. So, I think we should, if we do decide to do, the last thing I think we want to happen, because I'm kind of with you, Ian, but I'm also kind of with Scott at the same time, because the last thing we want to happen is to get to 9 months and not be ready and have to do another extension. That would be awful.
Right.
I kind of lean towards, doing it a month and doing what, Kelly was saying, is just staying on top of it, not letting it slip, which we sometimes tend to do, and try to get it out in 9 months or 7 months, but done right, and then we can just end the sunset early.
Right.
And I think Scott made a really good point too. Is part of the issue was there was no data, because Lara took 12 months. So it does soften the optics of having to extend the 18-month sunset that we had put in place.
Yep.
I'm fine with saying let's extend it 12 months. I'm okay with that. We want to do it right. I think as long as we have a way forward that we are moving towards, I think that's okay. I'd rather, take some time. As long as we have an agreement, let's do it. Are we going to do this? If we say yes, then let's move forward. I don't think we need to rush it. Not that 9 months is rushing it at all. But I think doing an extra few months, 12 months for the extension date, for the sunset date, I think if that's what we need to get right, then let's do that. And if we get done early, then that's even better. That's my thought.
And so what you added in today, I had a question about when we're saying licenses, and help me with this one, and forgive me if I should already know this, but when you're saying licenses, you're not meaning amount of businesses, are you?
Not necessarily. I think we can grant the number of licenses that we want. So, for example, if you wanted an adult use facility, we can, set, as a city, we can set it so that we're going to grant like maybe up to 3 licenses perhaps. But I think we can determine how. We'll have to talk with Scott, I think, on what's the right way to do that. But in terms of accepting the number of businesses we want and granting the number of licenses we want, like one business might have multiple licenses for different things, potentially. But I think the intent of this recommendation is to say, okay, we're recommending 3 licenses for adult use marijuana, so potentially 3 businesses, or and for transportation up to 2. So we can have these licenses, but then I don't think we have to necessarily grant them. We can review the applications and determine what are there good applicants, and move that way.
Hey, Scott, question for you about the licenses. Do we have flexibility in terms of how we set it up? So let's say, for example, could we do something like saying, we'll allow for up to 3 provisioning centers, up to 2 testing centers, and up to 2 transportation, so that's 7, but a maximum of 4, or something like that? for businesses in the city?
I don't know if you can say, I don't think you can do that. I think if you're going to provide for a certain number of licenses, you're going to have to make those licenses available,
Right.
especially if the applicants meet all the criteria that we establish. I know that this is probably a discussion we'll have in more depth later on, but my recommendation would be you can always go back, and if it's going well, you can add more licenses and more types of businesses versus taking them away. So my recommendation would be to start out with maybe a smaller number, and that's what it appears some of these other communities have done. I mean, I use Berkeley as an example. Obviously, a larger community, they've authorized one distribution center and no other types currently, but I know that it isn't something that they completely said, no, we're not going to do in the future, but let's kind of see how this first one goes, and then we can expand on that from here. So I would recommend something similar to that versus just, all right, we're going to potentially have 7 new businesses here, and a year in, it's this really wasn't the best idea. Now we're kind of stuck with those. So
I'm just trying to understand the flexibility that we had.
Yeah, and if you have thought, I don't know, I haven't seen the full recommendation from the subcommittee. I just see what I see on the screen here, which is just the following types of businesses. But did the subcommittee look at 2 things? One is the overall goal of allowing these. I know I heard, and when we talked last time about, the number of folks that had voted to allow recreational marijuana usage, but beyond that, were there specific reasons that the council, and are there specific reasons behind the identification of these facilities, as well as has there been some thought given to what potential issues could be with them so that we know how to begin mitigating some of those things through the ordinances? So those kind of 2 things, like what are the pros? We want to get these things. We want to make sure we accommodate that in our ordinances. And what are we trying to prevent? So we want to make sure we include those 2.
Yeah, let me address the second one first. So we talked, a lot about the issues that are coming out of these facilities and how they can be addressed and mitigated. So the committee did a lot of research on that, and there's research on our site about that, and we can talk that through. I think the bottom line is we think that negatives can be mitigated, can be addressed.
Oh, absolutely. We just need to know what they are. Well, because as Scott mentioned earlier, we can look at other ordinances as models, but those ordinances are written to deal with the issues that are specific to those communities. And there may be other issues that are specific to Lathrup. We want to make sure that we accommodate all of those.
Sure. I mean, we can talk about different issues. There's traffic issues, there's parking issues, there's potential smell issues, there's potential issues of security. There's a lot of issues. But like I said, we can, we as a committee, we're comfortable that those issues can be addressed, specifically to Lathrup Village as well, and that it's going to be up to us as a city council, if we move forward, to write the right ordinances that address all those issues.
Right, we can do that.
Yeah. So, and what was the first part of your question, Jill?
If there were specific outcomes that you're looking for.
Well, and the reasons why we selected these types of facilities, so we looked at, we know, our city is a small city. We're not a huge city, so we know that grow facilities, for example, require bigger space, a much larger facility. So we're not recommending for our city that we have any, grow facilities that grow, have an extensive growth of, marijuana plants. So we don't have any big spaces really to accommodate that. So we looked at even the micro business, which is growing up to 150 plants, but then also processing and not testing, but even all the way up to selling. Those require a bigger facility too. So initially we're thinking we don't, that's probably not the business for Lathrup Village. Whereas a processing facility, a testing facility, those are like, almost like normal businesses. They don't, you're not going to have a big sign, marijuana sign. There's not going to be a lot of people going in and out. There's not a lot of product there. Those are more, almost like scientific type of businesses where you have equipment, you have, a good workforce that's, doing work there, and those are like nice, almost normal businesses that you'd want in the city. So we want to have them. We want to have an opportunity to bring those businesses into the city. The reason we're saying maybe up to 3 adult use facilities is because those are the provisioning centers, they sell at retail. As long as we get the right businesses in there, they should not give us any negative issues. And those are the ones that bring in the bigger excise fees, potentially, the 10% excise tax that gets shared with the cities. The other facilities don't. The other facilities will get license fee, application fees, but the recreational is the one that you're going to get the 10% excise tax share. So, we put thought into what types of facilities and the positives and negatives, and that's what led to the overall recommendation. But just keep in mind, these are just the number of licenses and facilities. These are just recommendations. This would be up to the city council once they decide that we want to pursue allowing businesses into the city. Then it's going to be a discussion, I think, into exactly what do we really want? Do we want 3 or do we want 2 or 1? I mean, that's going to be, I think, an ongoing discussion that the city council ultimately has to decide on.
So, Jill, Salim's right about actually everything he said is correct. Regarding medical and adult use, so the plus, obviously, Salim just mentioned, is the excise tax, right?
Right.
The minus is traffic, so we have to figure out where we're going to actually locate that business, right? Everything else, such as testing, transportation, and I think it was one more that we made a recommendation that was actually adult use. Well, just testing, transportation. I don't think we have processing on there, do we? Let me see.
Yeah, it's the number 1 on the list.
Yes. Okay, so those 3 don't have any traffic issues. So they're really storefronts or office building with it's just a regular office building. So you wouldn't have any traffic going to those facilities.
Except for the people who work there, but yeah.
Yes, except for the people that work there. So the plus for those businesses are that expertise gets relocated to Lathrup, because we did the research where for those businesses, the people that work there actually want to live in the city they work in. They don't want to commute in. So that's the plus. There are no minuses on those last 3. So the biggest concern is the traffic for Lathrup and its size. And that's what Salim just alluded to.
Yeah, that's good. As we go forward, it'll be useful to be able to frame both the objectives or the outcomes that we are anticipating, those good things that we want to get from this, as well as acknowledging the issues that we're going to be addressing through the ordinances. Because keep in mind, we talked about the transparency earlier and moving this through in an efficient way, because you do have people who are interested in seeing this all wrapped up and completed. But remember that when we go through the public hearing process, there will be people who will come in who won't be in favor of it. And we also need to recognize that and continue this transparency. So that's why I like to, when we start out with crafting our first memo, we're going to talk a lot about the background. And so if you have information that you'd like to share with us as we do that, it'd be really helpful. And then again, as I had said in our timeline, I was proposing was that having all of this information posted on the city's website will be really useful in both showing that you're making progress and giving the community a heads up that this is coming. Because we've seen in other communities where there's a number of people who are on the same page with an ordinance, but we get to the community's turn to respond. And if they feel that there's already the outcome is already known or decided and they come to speak about it, that can be very frustrating for them. They feel like, well, why am I even here? Because you've already made up your mind. So just kind of keeping all of these things open and out in front so that people are aware of it. So when it does come along, we can continue to be moving as efficiently as we can. So
let me jump in here right now because we have about 5 minutes before we need to switch off of here and go to a different Zoom. Asking really quickly, does anyone have any questions or any concerns about the actual ordinance that is included in the packet?
You mean the extension?
Yeah. Sorry, the extension, sorry, I'm yes. Or you're fine with that?
Yep.
So it's the identical ordinance that's currently in active right now. It's just it changes the sunset period. So it would be what I'm proposing, and what's in your packet would be 12 months from the date of publication of this ordinance. So once this second reading of this ordinance, if it gets to that point, within 10 days of that, and once it gets published, so it actually would start the clock sooner than September 20th. It would start ticking sometime next month. I can't remember exact meeting date, but so.
Okay, so I mean, I was just asking, did anyone have, you know, did you go over it? Did you have any questions about it? Because otherwise, yes, it's
fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
And I just wanted to acknowledge that it was in your packet to let you know that hopefully you read it.
Yep.
So, and we're going to do 1 year.
Sounds good.
That's good.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Now, sorry,
ahead.
as Scott asked earlier, we need to give him direction on what the city council wants to do, right? Do we do that now or at the meeting?
Do as in for the sunset?
No, as in
Moving forward.
Moving forward, we're going to accept the recommendation and move forward towards creating ordinances.
So
I think that's a discussion. Sorry, Kelly.
that was part of the discussion that's going to come in our meeting, and it's a part of the packet that Jill put in there, a timeline, which you know, I'm afraid to make my computer blow up again. I want to switch to it, but I just don't want it to mess up again. But it's in your meeting packet that we'll go over the timeline for that. But this one is just that we're all in agreement that it'll be 1 year, and this is what we're accepting as the sunset. And then during the sunset, there will be a timeline that I'm hoping that we all will stick to tightly of how to keep moving this along. And if I'm not mistaken, within that timeline, there is a opportunity. We will be working on the ordinances.
Yeah, I think what Celine's asking is if council doesn't agree with the recommendation of the subcommittee and they don't believe marijuana businesses are appropriate in the city, then there's no reason to have an extension of the sunset. Let's just make it permanent. And
well, just to say, to be kind of, you know, just be honest in a conversation with each council person, I'm confident to say that we should just move forward and work on the ordinance. I mean, we all should be here so we can all have our you know, words, our idea and opinion in here, but we have to move forward and stop looking like we're kicking the can down the road. So
and that's why I say before, when this item comes up at the council meeting, I think that point should be made that, look, you know, we're not approving any ordinances tonight to open up the doors for applicants tomorrow morning, but we are in support of this recommendation, and we believe that this is a good fit for the city. So the next step is to extend the sunset provision and direct staff and consultants to begin compiling, doing what we need to do in order to get us to the next step. So I would like, if that's what council wants, I would like to have that be how that's prefaced at that point.
Well, okay, that's fine, because I do believe that there's a majority that's for than against. I mean, that's just,
and that's just what I think.
Very transparent with that. Instead of, you know, I can't say all the words I was thinking. Instead of just being transparent, we can just move forward. Let's go.
I agree.
So
I agree with that.
We have somebody wanted to say something we got 1 minute. Anyone?
Are you going to be discussing anything else with this? In other words, would you like me to come and stay with you till your next meeting, or are you all good on your comments? Is this just an action item that you take care of?
We're going to be doing so the action item is going to be, thank you. Oh, this is not it. The action item is going to be the sunset. What I would like for you to stay for is that it's your idea, or you gave the tentative timeline. So if there's any explanation that's needed there, or someone has a question. I mean, if you have the time, that would be great.
No problem.
If you would do that.
Yep.
Right. So just to,
good with that?
Just to summarize, the gist is going to be we will introduce the 12-month sunset. We'll make a statement towards the fact that there's enough interest and agreement among council to at least working to move forward to draft ordinances to allow this in our town, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
So I know that I want to jump to public comments really quick. If there's any public comments, you have like 1 minute because we have to go to a different Zoom. So if you have a public comment, chime in right now. Otherwise, if you could please just hold it for maybe 15 minutes and we'll go to the other Zoom and I'll catch you there. Is there anyone?
Do we go to a different Zoom or do we stay on this one?
We go to a different Zoom from my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a different password and it is a different Zoom. Sorry, want to keep you on your toes. That's why I'm trying to end it.
Yep.
Same meeting number though.
No, not from what it's a different password, it looks like.
Different.
Cheryl, do you want to jump in? Because you told me we had to switch.
Next meeting, the meeting number is 947-6369-4463. The password is 041293.
Thank you. All right, was there anybody, Kelda, did you see anybody with their hand up that wanted to speak? I don't see anybody with their hand up.
No hands up raised.
Sweet. Okay, so I'm gonna close this down and then we'll get back together in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you all.
All right. See you.